She pulled away. She did not answer your last message. She cancelled the plans, and suddenly she acts as if you no longer exist. And while 99% of men panic and commit the fatal mistake of chasing her with desperate messages, endless calls, or worse, by showing up uninvited, there is a psychological strategy so powerful it flips the entire dynamic in your favor. Today, I will show you exactly what to do when a woman pulls away so that she comes back on her own. Not the way she was before, but with more interest, more respect, and more emotional investment than ever. Before we begin, hit the like button because what you are about to hear will destroy everything you thought you understood about how to get a woman back. So, let us begin. Let me start with a brutal truth most men discover far too late. When a woman pulls away, it is not an accident. It is not because she is confused. It is not because she needs space to think. It is a deliberate test, conscious or unconscious, of your emotional strength. Her primitive brain asks a simple question. Is this man emotionally strong enough to handle my absence without collapsing? Because if he cannot handle my absence now, he certainly will not handle the real challenges that come with a long-term relationship. This is not female cruelty. This is evolutionary biology, operating exactly as it was designed. For hundreds of thousands of years, women had to identify men with authentic emotional stability because those men could protect and provide consistently without breaking under pressure. Emotionally weak men were survival risks. That programming did not vanish because we live in modern cities. It still operates at the deepest level of her psychology. Machiavelli understood something fundamental that applies perfectly here. He wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But the most dangerous position is to be despised. When you chase a woman who has pulled away, when you beg for her attention, when you reveal that her absence destroys you emotionally, you produce neither love nor fear. You produce contempt. And contempt is the most lethal emotion to any chance of attraction. It communicates that your value is lower than hers. So, what do you do when she pulls away? Here is the strategy. In one devastatingly simple sentence, before I break it down fully, you do absolutely nothing. Total silence. But not just any silence. A silence loaded with strategic intention, which I will explain step by step, because silence poorly executed is as useless as desperate pursuit. First, you must understand the psychology behind why silence works when it is executed correctly. There is a concept in behavioral psychology called extinction of reinforcement. When a behavior stops receiving the expected response, the brain enters a state of confusion and anxiety that motivates it to try harder to restore the previous pattern. When she pulls away, she expects one of two responses from you: a desperate chase that confirms you are emotionally weak, or anger and drama that confirm you are emotionally unstable. Both responses give her the information she needs to justify her decision to pull away. But when you do nothing, when your response is a complete absence of response, her brain does not receive the information it expects. She cannot classify you as weak because you did not chase. She cannot classify you as unstable because you did not explode. This creates an informational vacuum that her mind cannot tolerate. And here is where the psychological magic happens. The human brain hates uncertainty more than it hates bad news. We prefer knowing something is definitively over than being trapped in the limbo of not knowing what is happening. When you implement strategic silence after she pulls away, you force her into that limbo of uncertainty. And while she is there, her mind begins to do something fascinating. It begins to fill the void with stories. Is he with someone else? Has he completely lost interest in me? Is he ignoring me the same way I ignored him? Did I make a mistake by pulling away? Each question is a mental investment. Every minute she spends wondering why you did not react to her distance is a minute where you are the protagonist in her thoughts. Now contrast this with what happens when you chase. She pulls away. You send messages asking what happened. If you did something wrong, if the two of you can talk, there is no uncertainty. She knows exactly where you stand emotionally, desperate and needy. She knows she has full control over the situation, and the most devastating part, she knows she can come back whenever it suits her, and you will be there waiting. You destroyed your psychological advantage with a few desperate actions. Now, strategic silence is not simply ignoring her and waiting passively. It has three specific components that must be executed simultaneously, or the entire approach collapses. The first component: complete digital absence. This means you do not text her. You do not watch her Instagram stories. You do not react to anything she posts. You do not appear in any digital space where she could detect your presence. Most men fail here because they believe not texting her is enough. But he keeps watching every story she posts. He keeps liking old photos at 3 a.m. in the morning. He keeps monitoring her online activity. She can see all of this through her view metrics. And when she sees that you are obsessively watching her digital life while pretending to be indifferent, the message is unmistakable. You are weak and you are playing games. Digital absence must be absolute. If she posts something, you do not see it. If she uploads a photo with another man to provoke jealousy, you do not react because you have not seen it. This requires brutal discipline, especially in the first days, but it is completely non-negotiable. Every time you give in to the temptation to check her profile, you weaken your psychological position. Second component: visible value building. This is where silence becomes strategy instead of passivity. While you maintain total absence toward her, you must build your life in a way that is visible to the world, not specifically for her. Because remember, you are not looking at her content. You have no idea if she is looking at yours. So, your feed shows progress at the gym, posts about projects or professional achievements, nights out with friends where you clearly enjoy yourself, new activities that prove your life is expanding, not shrinking. Why is this critical? Because if you share mutual friends or overlapping social circles, some of this information will eventually reach her. And when it does, the story she tells herself changes instantly. Instead of imagining you at home, suffering from her absence, which would confirm that she was right to pull away because your value is low, she sees proof that your life has improved without her. This triggers a devastating psychological mechanism called loss aversion. Studies in behavioral economics show that humans feel losses about twice as intensely as they feel equivalent gains. When she perceives that she is potentially losing you, and even worse, that you are gaining value as she loses you, the psychological pain of that potential loss overpowers every reason she had for leaving. Suddenly, her brain begins to recalculate. Wait, I pulled away expecting him to chase, which would confirm my superior value. But not only did he refuse to chase me, he is thriving without me. This means my value is not as high as I believed, or his value is higher than I estimated. Either way, I must reconsider my decision. Third component, and the one that separates masters from amateurs: authentic emotional regulation. You cannot fake this if inside you are devastated, obsessed, checking your phone every 5 minutes, hoping she will write, while on the outside you maintain silence and post smiling pictures. That incongruence eventually leaks through micro-behaviors people detect even when they cannot explain them. Authentic emotional regulation means you are truly fine. You are not pretending. You have genuinely accepted that if she does not come back, your life continues and will continue to improve. You have internalized that your value does not depend on her validation. You have redirected your emotional energy toward productive things that genuinely matter to you. When you reach this state, something magical happens. You are no longer performing a strategy. You are living from a place of real abundance. And real abundance is magnetic in a way false abundance never can be. If this content is showing you a completely different approach from the panic and desperation you felt the last time a woman pulled away, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because now I will reveal the 3 fatal mistakes men make even when they try to apply this strategy. Mistakes that destroy any possibility of her coming back. Fatal mistake number 1, breaking the silence too early. Most men hold 3, maybe 5 days of silence, and then their anxiety wins. They send a casual message like, "Hey, how are you?" believing it is subtle. It is not subtle. It is transparent. She knows exactly what it means. He could not handle my absence. He lasted a few days, but his need for contact defeated him. Every day he held without contact was building psychological tension. He broke that tension too early, and with it, he destroyed all the power he had accumulated. So, how long should silence last? There is no magic formula, because it depends on the context of the relationship. But here is the general rule: a minimum of 2 weeks, ideally 3 to 4 weeks, maximum 6 weeks. Beyond that, silence becomes so prolonged that she interprets it as definitively over and closes the emotional chapter completely. But even within this window, you do not break the silence. She does. Your goal is not to endure an arbitrary period so you can message her again. Your goal is to create the psychological conditions where she decides on her own that she made a mistake and returns. Fatal mistake number 2, responding immediately when she finally breaks the silence. This is devastating because you throw away your advantage at the most critical moment. She held back for days or weeks, resisting the impulse to contact you. Finally, her need to resolve the uncertainty defeated her, and she wrote to you. If you respond in 5 minutes with enthusiasm, the message is clear. You were waiting for her. The silence was an act. Your value is not as high as it appeared. She regains control instantly. The correct move when she finally breaks the silence is almost counterintuitive, but brutally effective. You delay your response, not for hours, for at least an entire day. Ideally, for days. And when you do respond, your message is cordial but not enthusiastic, polite but not emotional, short and without explanations. You do not tell her where you were. You do not justify your silence. You do not apologize. You simply acknowledge her message with the energy of a man who is doing well and has continued his life. "Hey, I have been pretty busy. How are you?" Nothing more. Now the ball is in her court. If she wants to rebuild the connection, she must invest real effort. She must demonstrate why she deserves your time after choosing to walk away. Fatal mistake number 3, returning to the old dynamic when she comes back. She breaks the silence. Maybe you start talking again. Maybe you meet, and instantly you become the exact same man you were before she pulled away. The level of effort you invest, the availability you show, the emotional balance of the relationship, everything returns to the old pattern. This is a fatal mistake because the reason she pulled away was that old pattern. Maybe you invested too much effort and she took it for granted. Maybe you were too available and she lost the sense of challenge. Maybe you had no clear boundaries and she lost respect. When she comes back, she must return to a new dynamic where you have raised your standards. This does not mean treating her badly or acting cold. It means your availability is not automatic. Your time has value and must be earned. Your boundaries are clear and non-negotiable. Investment must be balanced. If she initiates conversation 3 times, you initiate 3 times. If she suggests plans, you suggest plans. But no one does all the work. Machiavelli wrote about the danger of repeating the mistakes that weakened you in the first place. A prince who recovers a lost territory but does not change the policies that caused the rebellion will lose that territory again. In relationships, if you get a woman back but keep the dynamic that pushed her away, she will pull away again the moment she feels safe enough to do it. Now, let me explain what happens inside her mind during the silence period. Understanding this will give you the strength to hold the line when anxiety tries to convince you to break the strategy. During the first week, she is in what psychologists call the justification phase. Her mind actively creates stories that justify her decision to pull away. He was too much of this, not enough of that. The connection was not that strong. She comforts herself by creating emotional distance. In this phase, if you break the silence, you hand her more evidence that confirms her narrative. You see, he could not go 1 week without chasing me. I absolutely made the right choice. During the second week, the doubt phase begins. The justification stories feel less convincing. She begins noticing your absence in ways she did not expect. She sees something funny, and her first impulse is to share it with you before remembering that the two of you are not speaking. She walks past a place you once visited together, and a wave of nostalgia hits her. She hears a song she subconsciously associated with you. These small moments accumulate, slowly cracking the certainty she had at the beginning. By the third and fourth week, she enters the recalibration phase. This is where her brain begins to authentically reassess the value you once had. If you maintained complete digital absence, she has no idea where you stand emotionally. If you built visible value, she sees proof that you are thriving. The combination forces a fundamental question inside her mind. What if I was wrong? What if he was better than I was willing to admit? What if someone else is seeing the value I carelessly rejected? This is typically the phase, week 3 or 4, where she breaks the silence, not because you did anything to trigger it, but because the psychological tension of uncertainty has become unbearable for her. She needs to resolve where you stand emotionally and relationally. She needs to know whether the door is still open, or if it has closed forever. And most importantly, she needs to regain the sense of control she lost when you refused to react the way she expected. But now I must give you a deeper perspective, something most men never consider. Sometimes when a woman pulls away, it is not a test. It is an authentic decision based on real incompatibility. Maybe she identified fundamental values that do not align. Maybe she saw behavioral patterns that are deal breakers for her. Maybe she met someone with whom she feels a stronger compatibility. In such cases, strategic silence will not bring her back because there is nothing for her to return to. The connection ended authentically. And here lies the wisdom that separates emotionally mature men from emotional children. You must be at peace with both outcomes. If she comes back after the silence, beautiful. You now have the opportunity to rebuild something better from a more balanced dynamic. If she does not come back, beautiful as well. You have filtered out someone who was not sufficiently invested or was fundamentally incompatible, saving yourself months or even years of emotional investment in something that had no real future. This acceptance of both outcomes is not resignation. It is not indifference. It is emotional maturity. It is understanding that not every connection is meant to become a relationship, and forcing something that is not mutual creates suffering for both people involved. Machiavelli understood that effective leaders must make difficult decisions without being paralyzed by hope or fear. In relationships, that means you execute the best strategy available based on what you know, and then you accept the result without emotional collapse, no matter what it is. Let me share a specific case that illustrates this entire strategy perfectly. A friend of mine was seeing a woman for 4 months. The connection felt strong. There was chemistry, deep conversations, plans for the future. Then suddenly, she began creating distance messages spaced further apart, less availability, a colder energy. He asked me what to do. I told him to implement full strategic silence with all 3 components: complete digital absence, visible value building, and authentic emotional regulation. The first week was brutal for him. Every day, his mind screamed at him to text her to ask what happened, to try to fix whatever had gone wrong, but he resisted. Week 2, he began focusing more on the gym. He restarted a personal project he had abandoned. He went out with friends he had neglected. His emotional state began to stabilize. Week 3, he posted photos of a night out with friends where he looked authentically happy. He was not pretending for her to see. He was genuinely rebuilding his life. Day 23. She sent him a long message explaining that she had been confused, that the intensity of the connection had scared her, that she missed talking to him. Here comes the crucial part. He did not respond that day. He waited 2 full days. When he finally replied, his message was cordial, but not effusive. I understand you were handling things. I have also been focused on different areas of my life. It is good to hear from you. Nothing more. She responded almost immediately, asking if they could meet. He told her he would check his schedule and let her know. 3 days later, he proposed a specific date and time. She accepted. During that meeting, the dynamic was completely different. She was significantly more engaged, asking more questions, showing more affection, even admitting that she had made a mistake by creating distance. What changed? She had experienced his absence. She had seen that he could thrive without her. She had felt the real possibility of losing him permanently, and most importantly, he did not collapse or chase her. He demonstrated authentic emotional strength. 6 months later, they are still together. But she confessed something revealing to me. She told me the moment she realized he was different from other men was when he did not react to her distancing. She had done the same thing with previous partners, and all of them chased desperately. He was the first man who simply continued his life. That proved to her he had the kind of emotional strength she needed in a long-term partner. Now, I want you to participate. In your opinion, when a woman pulls away, which approach works best? A. Total silence for a minimum of 3 weeks. B. A short message after 1 week asking if everything is fine. Write A or B in the comments and explain briefly why you chose that option. I want to see which approach wins in this video. But before you comment, I must warn you about something crucial. This strategy is not manipulation. It is a filter. If you apply it correctly and she does not come back, you have lost nothing of value. You have filtered out someone whose interest was not strong enough or whose compatibility was not real. You have saved yourself months of emotional investment in something with no foundation. That is not a loss. That is efficiency. On the other hand, if she returns and you build a more balanced dynamic, you have gained something meaningful. A relationship where both people value each other, where investment is reciprocal, where no one is taken for granted. This type of dynamic is the only one that has the potential to create something lasting and deeply fulfilling for both. But there is one final component you must understand to grasp why this strategy works on a deeper psychological level. It connects to what psychologists call reactance theory. Reactance is the motivational impulse we feel when our freedom of choice is threatened or restricted. We instinctively push back to restore that freedom. In relationships, when she pulls away and you chase her, there is no reactance. Her freedom is not threatened. She is exercising her freedom to leave, and you are simply accepting it even while you follow her. But when she pulls away, and you do not chase, and instead you disappear completely, everything shifts. Suddenly, her freedom to return whenever she wants feels threatened. She no longer knows if the option is still available. She no longer knows if you will still be there. This uncertainty activates psychological reactance. She feels an internal pull to restore the freedom she senses she is losing. Paradoxically, by not pursuing her, you motivate her to pursue you because she needs to know whether she can still have you if she chooses to. This explains why women often return at the exact moment a man finally detaches authentically. It is not coincidence. It is not magical timing. It is her subconscious recognizing that the door she assumed was permanently open is beginning to close. And that sense of possible loss creates an urgency that did not exist when she pulled away. Machiavelli wrote something profound about human nature. He argued that men forget the death of their father faster than they forget the loss of their inheritance. He meant that humans value intensely what they feel they can lose far more than what they assume will be there forever. In modern terms, we take for granted what feels secure. We value most what feels at risk. When you chase a woman who pulled away, you communicate that she is not at risk of losing you. When you implement strategic silence, you introduce that risk, and with it comes a renewed sense of value. In the end, everything comes down to one fundamental truth about human dynamics. Respect is never requested. Respect is earned through behavior that demonstrates value at a level words never can. When a woman pulls away and you hold your position, when you focus on your growth instead of reacting with desperation or drama, you demonstrate the kind of emotional strength that creates authentic respect. And respect is the foundation on which lasting attraction is built. You cannot negotiate respect. You cannot beg for it. You cannot convince someone to respect you through logical arguments. Respect comes only when your behavior consistently demonstrates that your value does not depend on the validation of one specific person. When a woman sees that your life is thriving with or without her, that your emotional state remains stable regardless of her presence, that you do not need her attention to feel complete, you earn respect automatically. And with that respect comes the renewal of attraction. So the next time a woman pulls away, do not panic. Do not chase. Do not try to fix something that is not broken. It is simply being tested. Implement the 3 components of strategic silence: complete digital absence, visible value building, authentic emotional regulation. Hold this position for a minimum of 3 weeks, and ideally until she breaks the silence. When she does, respond without urgency. Respond with the energy of a man who continued his life successfully and steadily. And if she never returns, recognize what truly happened. You filtered out an incompatibility or insufficient interest much faster than if you had spent months or years chasing crumbs of attention. In both scenarios, you win. Either you rebuild the connection from a stronger, more balanced dynamic, or you eliminate something that did not deserve your continued investment. There is no losing scenario when you execute this strategy from a place of genuine self-respect. If this video gave you an entirely new perspective on how to handle female distancing, subscribe to the channel and share in the comments if you have ever applied strategic silence and what result you experienced. And remember this, your value does not decrease because someone cannot see it. Some people are simply not equipped to recognize or appreciate what you offer, and that is perfectly fine. It is not your job to convince them. Your job is to build a life so solid that those who do not value you are filtered out naturally, while those who recognize your worth gravitate toward you without effort.